Hi, this topic is a part 2 of managing invoice options. Therefore, we will finalize the review of the remaining invoice options in part 1 of managing invoice options. If you remember, we reviewed in detail the invoice entry, matching, and discount options. Here you will learn about the invoice options related to prepayment, approval, interest, payment request, and self-service invoices. To manage the invoice options, you have to navigate to Task Panel, go down from My Enterprise, you have to select Setup and Maintenance, then select Financials, go down, select Payables as a functional area, and manage invoice options. Go down, Prepayment. First of all, a prepayment is a type of invoice that you enter to pay an advance payment to a supplier. For example, you pay a deposit or a lease, or you may need to pay an employee an advance for travel expenses. You can later apply the prepayment to one or more invoices or expense reports that you receive from the supplier or employee to offset the amount previously paid to them. One of the options available related to prepayment invoice is a payment term. You can provide a payment term to set the default payment term for a prepayment. For example, it is recommended that you use immediate payment term for all prepayments. Then you can also provide installment days. This is a free form field where you can specify the number of days to act through the system date to calculate the default installment date. You can only apply prepayment to an invoice on or after the installment date. Note that this option can also be set at the supplier level. There are two checkboxes available under prepayment: use distribution from purchase order, show available prepayment during invoice entry. The first one is use distribution from purchase order. This option builds the invoice distribution by taking the purchase order distribution and overwriting the natural account segment with a natural account segment from supplier side prepayment distribution, or if not defined, from the common options prepayment distributions. The second checkbox is show available prepayment during invoice entry. This displays the number and the amount of available prepayments when you enter an invoice. Now we are going to take a look at the options under approval. Payables provides configurable predefined invoice approval rules and the ability to add rules using approval management extensions of the Oracle SOAS suite and Oracle Human Workflow. The invoice approval process determines whether an invoice requires approval, and if so, automatically routes the invoice to the applicable approvals, who then approve or reject the invoice, and the invoices cannot be paid until they are approved. If you enable the approval options, you can choose one of the following: enable invoice approval, allow for approval, require validation, or specify accounting preferences. Allow for approval. This enables the approving managers to override the workflow, and they can manually approve the invoices. For more information on managing approvals, you can review the content of the appendix of a student guide of the course of the Oracle Fusion Financial, and also I will make another video for invoice approval. If you select require validation before before approval. The system sends invoices through the approval workflow only after the invoices are checked for holds and completeness by the validation process. You can specify the accounting preferences. The available options are account regardless of approval status, require accounting before approval, require approval before accounting. Now let's take a look at the interest set options. An interest invoice is created and paid while you paying an overdue invoice. Available options related to interest are create interest invoices. Enabling this option calculates interest on overdue invoices and create interest invoices. To use automatic interest rate calculation, you must also define interest rates. You can also set this option on a supplier side to yes or no or default from Payables options. The following options become available only if you enable the create interest invoices. You can specify the minimum interest amount. So here you will enter the minimum amount of calculated interest below which an interest invoice is not created. You can also choose an interest calculation allocation method. The two options are single distributions, which use the interest expense distributions, and the other is all invoice lines. This one uses a natural account segment from the interest expense distribution. The last one under the interest options is interest expense distribution, which is a default account that you can provide here. So here you will enter the discount combination for the interest expense if the option interest allocation method is set to single distribution here. You may also specify payment requests. This type of invoices are generated as a result of the refund that has been initiated for a customer, or is a result of an expense report that has been imported from the expense management system. Oracle receivables and Oracle expenses can submit requests to Payables to disperse funds to a payee who is not defined as a supplier. When receivables processes a customer non-credit card refund, and when expenses processes an expense report. An invoice is created in Payables with an invoice type of payment request. You can disperse the funds and manage the payment process using the functionality that is available in Payments. The options that will default to a payment request from the invoice options are payment term, pay group, and payment priority. You can set the values for these three fields, which will be used when issuing payment. An example of payment request is one-time payment. These features allow transactions to be imported into Payables from external system as a payment request using predefined file-based data import template known as FBDI template. The payees and any bank account information for electronic payments are created automatically when the transactions are imported into Payables. These payment requests are created with distributions and validated as a part of the import process. This eliminates the need for manual intervention when importing payment requests from their external system. Payment requests can be approved and updated, and attachments can also be added. Separate payments run can be processed for these transactions from regular payments to suppliers. The steps to process the one-time payments are as follows. First, you need to download the FBDI template design specifically for one-time payments. Next, you prepare the data using the FBDI template. Then you can generate the CSV file along with a zip file, and next you upload the zip file via the schedule process called load interface file for import. Once the file has been uploaded, you need to input the data into Payables using the schedule process called import payable payment requests. After that, you can make any necessary adjustment to the payment request in the invoices work area. And finally, you can schedule or run the payment process request for one-time payments to complete the payments. Let's now take a look at the options that you are related to self-service invoices. Using the supplier portal, a supplier can create invoices, then can view existing invoice to check the invoice status and view payment. If supplier creates an invoice that is not matched to a purchase order, the invoice is initially recorded in Payables as an invoice request. Once it's approved by the requester, then the invoice request becomes an invoice. Payables must validate the invoice before payment can be processed. The option under self-service includes the invoiced single purchase order. If you enable these options, it limits an invoice to scheduling belonging to a single purchase order. If not enabled, a supplier can create one invoice for multiple purchase orders. Another option is allow invoice backdating. This lets the supplier enter invoices with a date in the past. Another option is allow unit change for quantity-based matches. These options lets a supplier enter a unit price on an invoice that is different from the unit price on the purchase order. You can select from the available options such as None, which won't allow unit price changes for quantity-based matches. You can select price decreased only, price increased only, or both price increase or decrease. Final one is that you can require attachment which will require suppliers to include an attachment every time they submit self-service invoices. So I hope that after going through this topic you have a good understanding of how to manage the invoice options related to prepayments, approvals, payment requests, including one-time payments and self-service invoices. Thanks for watching.